Purpose is the gentleman from Kentucky seek recognition.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment offered by Mr. Massie of Kentucky. At the end of the bill, before the short title, insert the following section. None of the funds made available by this act may be used in contravention of Section 7606, legitimacy of industrial hemp research of the Agricultural Act of 2014, Public Law Number 113-79, by the Department of Justice or the Drug Enforcement Administration.
Pursuant to the order of the House of today, the gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Massie, and a member opposed will each control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Kentucky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise today with 4 of my colleagues to offer a bipartisan amendment that simply requires the DEA to comply with federal law, despite clear language in the recently passed Farm Bill that specifically allows state agricultural agencies and universities to grow industrial hemp for research. The DEA decided to ignore the plain text of a federal statute. Officials in my home state of Kentucky were recently forced to file a lawsuit in federal court to compel the DEA to release industrial hemp seeds intended for a university research pilot program. What a waste of time, money, and the court's limited resources. States cannot launch industrial hemp pilot programs if the DEA seizes the seeds before they reach their destination. And although the DEA did recently agree to release the seeds, my amendment ensures that this type of DEA action won't happen again. If this were simply about seeds, I wouldn't be here. We've got that resolved. But there are further issues. There are more issues. For instance, the DEA has been very ambiguous on whether they are going to assert authority to say that hemp can't be grown on private property. Listen, where else are you going to grow it? It's not like the government has farms. And the Farm Bill is clear in this language. The Farm Bill says that the state authorities shall register these sites, not the DEA, yet the DEA refuses to acknowledge that. And furthermore, with regard to the seeds, the DEA requires, and this I find ridiculous, that the seeds, and these are industrial hemp seeds with no active THC, must be kept under lock and key with only 3 keys available. And the way we've got these stored in Kentucky now is you put your handprint on the door and you can get into these hemp seeds. You want to know how ridiculous that is? By the end of this growing season, we're going to have thousands of pounds of hemp seeds, not 250 pounds of hemp seeds. So the question is, what is the DEA going to do going forward? We would just want them to simply obey the law. The fact is that growing hemp for research purposes has always been legal. So why hasn't it been done? Because it required interfacing with the DEA. And the DEA purposely used regulations to stop any of this research. The Farm Bill that I co-sponsored was to clear the way for hemp industrial research, not to perpetuate a broken process where the DEA obfuscates and delays, but to give that freedom to state and local governments. And I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Who seeks recognition?
Go ahead. I strike the requisite number of words.
For Virginia, seek
Yes.
recognition.
I rise in opposition to the amendment and yield such time.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
I yield such time as you may consume to the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Mr. Goodlatte.
Gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this is where I came in a little while ago. The gentlewoman was correct that I was speaking earlier about this amendment and not hers. However, I oppose both of these amendments. The principle is the same. With regard to this amendment, I would say to the gentleman that the gentleman's amendment in the Farm Bill is new law and it is being implemented, but it does not exclude the role of the DEA. Your amendment here today would strip funds from the ability of the DEA to be involved, and the involvement is as described in your amendment with regard to the confiscation, seizure, and otherwise impeding the importation, transfer, or movement in interstate or interstate commerce of seeds intended for the purpose of growing or cultivating industrial hemp. Now that is,
Would the gentleman yield?
I'd be happy to.
That is not my amendment that you just read.
Okay, well, what is your amendment then? I'll yield to the gentleman.
The clerk read it, but if you may, it says none of the funds made available by this act may be used in contravention of Section 7606, legitimacy of industrial hemp research of the Agricultural Act of 2014 by the Department of Justice or the Drug Enforcement Administration. It doesn't, my amendment at the desk says nothing about seeds.
Okay, well, seeds or hemp, you have to still have the involvement of the DEA because seeds and hemp can be used to grow marijuana as well as to grow hemp. And so if you don't have the ability to determine just by looking at it whether or not it is something that is going to be used for research purposes for hemp or whether it's going to be used to grow illegal marijuana to be sold to whoever, you need to have the DEA involved in that process. And if you take the DEA out of the process, which your amendment in the Farm Bill did not do, and which I would strongly oppose having occur now, you're going to have a situation where this law will be honored in name only and will not be used for the purpose for which I presume you intended it, which is to do research with regard to the growing of hemp. That is not what you're going to have here because you cannot determine, for example, the THC limits of cannabis plants simply by looking at them. You've got to have this examined. You've got to have it licensed, and that's a proper thing to do since the law requires it to be done. But the DEA needs to fulfill the role that the law requires them to do for that very purpose, and as a result, I must strongly oppose this amendment.
Gentleman yields back.
Mr. Chairman, how much time do I have remaining?
The gentleman from Kentucky has 2.5 minutes.
Would the gentleman be willing to share a minute of that with our side?
Yes, I will yield 1 minute to the lady from Oregon.
The gentlelady from Oregon is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I rise in support of the bipartisan amendment I'm proud to co-sponsor with Mr. Massie of Kentucky. This amendment simply says that none of the funds in the CJS bill can be used by the Department of Justice or the DEA in contravention of the section of the Farm Bill, the duly enacted Farm Bill, which I supported for many reasons, one of which was that it had an industrial hemp research program, that authorizes industrial hemp research. This is very simple. We passed the bipartisan Farm Bill. Its provisions are law. In Kentucky, one of the states conducting research, the DEA intervened. Only when Kentucky sued did the DEA get out of the way. The amendment restates a law that is already on the books, but maybe the DEA needs to hear it twice. Remember, it's rope, not dope. I urge an aye vote, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentlelady for time. Gentleman, he is recognized.
Reserved.
Gentleman. Other members seek recognition. Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Thank you. I hope the chairman will vote for my amendment. Basically, it just says that we're going to enforce the Farm Bill, the language of the Farm Bill. And the Farm Bill is very clear in its language. It says no other federal law withstanding. Isn't it ironic that thousands of pounds of cocaine and heroin are somehow passing our borders every week, yet the DEA thinks that seizing industrial hemp seeds in Kentucky is worthwhile use of its time and resources? Or furthermore, what are they going to do this fall when we harvest the hemp seeds? There's no import-export there. These are Kentucky hemp seeds once they're grown in Kentucky. There's no federal nexus this fall. And so I hope that the Farm Bill and the language in the Farm Bill will be honored. We voted for it. It was signed by the President. Our amendment is simple. It states that no funds may be used by the Department of Justice or Drug Enforcement Administration to violate the clear language of the Farm Bill, which says states are allowed to grow and cultivate industrial hemp if the industrial hemp is grown or cultivated for the purposes of research conducted under an agricultural pilot program or other agricultural or academic research. The DEA is not above Congress. It's not above the law. Executive branch agencies like the DEA must follow the laws passed by the legislative branch. Please join us in support of this common sense, reasonable amendment. And I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Texas. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. The opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to.
Gentleman from Virginia.
For what reason does the gentleman from Virginia seek recognition?
On that, I ask for the yeas and nays.
Pursuant to the Clause 6 of Rule 18, further proceedings on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Kentucky will be postponed.
Vote will rise and be counted. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their vote by electronic device. This will be a 2-minute vote. On this vote, the yeas are 246, the nays are 162. The amendment is adopted.